What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Another Friday, another episode of Why Are We Bullish? I am still on the road. I'm here in Riga, Latvia for Nostriga, as well as Baltic Honey Badger. And while I've been here, I've been able to have some sit-downs with a couple great gentlemen and discuss why they are bullish. So a little bit of a different environment for Why Are We Bullish this week, but I hope you enjoy the conversations that I got to have with Knut Svanholm and Jon Chenot. So we'll dive into that right away. Of course, if you have not already, please do like, subscribe, share. All those things, they help a ton getting this content in front of more eyeballs. And without further ado, I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.
Bitcoin Well is on a mission to enable independence by being one of the easiest and quickest ways to purchase Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And the best part about it, every buy goes directly into your own self-custody. They never hold your coins. You can add a Bitcoin address as part of onboarding. There's a transparent 1% spread, no hidden fees, no withdrawal fees. Plus they have KYC free sells and bill payments on their website. They're also a publicly traded company under the ticker BTCW on the TSXV. Check them out over at bitcoinwell.com. Check out my full tutorial on how to use them, and you can check out the links in the show notes down below and sign up today. CoinKite.com has some of the best hardware on the market today to secure your Bitcoin. The Cold Card Q is an absolute powerhouse and is my daily driver. And on top of this, they have plenty of other goodies, including the Mark IV, the Tap Signer, Open Dimes, the Block Clock, and much more. If you head over to their website, make sure you use code BTC Sessions at checkout to get a nice discount. Links are in the show notes down below. Hey man, how's it going?
Hey,
It's good to see you.
good to see you too.
Yeah, this is, so we're in Riga right now.
Yeah.
And we had an epic breakfast here 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Also in and around Baltic Honey Badger. And it was one of the most bullish conversations I've ever had.
Likewise. And this is where both our journeys started right around then, right?
Yeah, you gave me your first book
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
I've since bought other books and not just gotten them for free. But you've been busy these past 5 years.
I have. So have you. I think you're one of the few people that have been busier than me, actually.
It's writing a book and many books is no easy task, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, it's been fun.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm on the road, and I think now I'm doing these Why Are We Bullish minis whenever I travel. So we're gonna chat about why are you bullish. So what's currently top of mind for you? What are you excited about? What makes you bullish these days?
Oh, so many things. And we're doing the Nostriga unconference right now.
Yep.
So Nostr goes hand in hand with Bitcoin, and I'm very bullish on Nostr. I'm trying to figure out in my head which happens first, hyper-Bitcoinization or hyper-Nostrification.
I wonder. It's what gets censored more, speech or money? We'll see.
They're the same picture. Like
Yeah.
that's insert meme here, right?
Yeah, I guess speech is money
Yeah,
and money
yeah.
is speech. They're interoperable.
Yes, and I think there might be a scenario where Nostrification triggers hyper-Bitcoinization. So you get Nostr to basically come with a steamroller and redesign the entire web because it's so much more powerful, and you get all the web of trust effects, like you're basically fixing broken stuff on the internet, broken incentives, and like most Nostr applications or whatever will have the SAPs included. So that's how you sneak Bitcoin in there, and one thing leads to the other.
I quite like that. One thing that I'm wondering is, I wonder if the whole Elon Musk taking over Twitter and allowing some people back and kind of having a semblance of free speech again. I wonder if that, for the time being, stunted the flows that would have been going to Nostr as a free speech tool, because people like the network effects are always a bitch, right?
Yeah.
And so I wonder if that hadn't happened, if Twitter had continued down the path of being like every other social media platform with, you know, basically the feds in there.
Yeah, but I think there's something to that. First of all, I think Elon has done a great job. I'm conflicted about Elon on like his positions on this and that.
Yeah.
But I think with Twitter, now X, he's done a fairly good job, like removing the blue check and kicking celebrities off of their high horses. It was a very good move, and he's battled the bots fairly efficiently, and his free speech stances are great. But it's sort of like, it's very similar to the first years of Bitcoin. Like what happens when you have functioning legacy system things is that it gives the developers time to actually develop the things before the thing takes off. And Nostr is not very scalable at the moment, so it's basically just giving us time. And also, meanwhile, Twitter is a relatively still free speech platform. Takes quite a lot to be shadow banned, I mean, or banned. So I think, yeah, all roads lead to the same place in the end.
Yeah. It's I'm particularly bullish, having watched, like this morning. There was a talk by Pablo in Milan, and that was fantastic, where they're talking about the killer app of Nostr being its openness.
Yeah.
And I really think that's absolutely true. Like just how anybody can plug anything into it, and it's just an open playground for everybody.
Yeah, and it's fantastic, and it is a reaction to all the censorship that has been going on. But I think we've so got this. You know, Bitcoin exists, Nostr exists, and like even on the centralized platform, we have fairly open communication. We have social media, we have video conferencing with a guy in Hawaii with no lag. Like it's pretty incredible the times we live in, and traveling around is cheap. I think the free market sort of solves for a lot of things. People do wake up and they do distrust politicians more and more, and that's a good thing. Like we're building a true alternative to the current paradigm, and we'll see how it plays out. But at the end of the day, I'm an optimist, and I don't believe we'll run into a dystopian scenario and like civil wars and stuff before this happens, because I think the positive forces are so much more powerful than the opposing forces. So I am an optimist.
What's missing for you right now? Like what are some pieces of the puzzle that you would like to see figured out in terms of, if you're using Bitcoin and you're using Nostr and you're using these protocols, like, you know, what isn't quite scratching that itch yet, or it needs to be built out on from your perspective?
It's a very good question, and it's a hard question to answer. I mean, a part of me wishes it was easier to get a second passport, like, because that solves a lot of problems, the jurisdictional arbitrage thing. But I think that is getting easier, maybe a bit slowly, but still, like, optionality is key. Like having the option to do one thing or another. And well, you know, you come from Canada. Yeah.
We had our fair share of censorship and totalitarianism. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm actively kind of looking for plan Bs. It's tough because obviously, you know, I've got kids, we've got family, the grandparents are all where we are in Canada, and so I can't tear the kids away from their grandparents. But at the same time, both me and my wife are like, if you know, if that wasn't there, we'd be gone. right? And so, you know, I like where I live. I obviously love my family, but it's just this looming kind of recognition that governments are going to need to scrape away more and more, just to maintain, you know, their level of control.
No, it's awful, and like, of course, it's harder when you have a family, and I know because I moved from Sweden to Spain. Still, that's 3 hours away. It's like a 3-hour flight, so it's not that bad. And we spend our summers in Sweden meeting the rest of the family. So, but at the end of the day, it's like people voting with their feet, or just staying where they are, but adopting alternative systems. Like that's what needs to happen for the sovereign individual thesis to play out. You know, so.
Yeah.
But I think it is happening, and I think it is putting pressure on governments to be more open and freedom-oriented. It might seem like they've become more totalitarian short term, but you know, that's how the whole lockdown bullshit stopped. It's by people not complying, so the politicians were pressured to remove all the stupid mask mandates or whatever.
Yeah, it's very, and I mean, again, back to Canada, we saw that firsthand. We saw the whole you know, like mass protests, and we saw a lot of people didn't notice because the protests got shut down, but like within a couple of weeks of the protests, everything was gone. Like all of the mandates, everything was toast. And so they recognized
there is a tipping point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I have a little bit of a change in direction of questions, but on your end, what is your interaction with Bitcoin like nowadays? Is it still it's obviously a savings mechanism, but is that kind of, are you? I guess what I'm getting at is it you're primarily receiving fiat day to day, you're converting fiat to Bitcoin for savings, or are you using Bitcoin day to day for regular transactions? Like, what is it to you right now?
I mean, it's a bit of both. We accept Bitcoin on our website, bitcoininfinitystore.com, where all the books and all the merch is, and also like we have sponsors for the pod and stuff, and some of it is in Bitcoin and some of it is in fiat. I mean, you're still living in the legacy world, so you have to have one foot in each camp, I guess. And it depends on where you are, and what it comes down to is how many other Bitcoiners are around. I mean, this is what I experienced on Madeira, like even before the conference and even before Bitcoin took off there. As long as there's just a handful of Bitcoiners in the same location, that sort of makes all the financial problems go away, because everything is frictionless. You can go to a restaurant and someone picks up the bill and you can just shoot sats at each other, and it's so simple. And when people see that, I think it's like inevitable that it happens. But I do think it's a grassroots movement that pops up here and there, and like so. Yeah, I mean, it's a transition for all of us, and we're slowly but surely coming from one system to the other.
Have you saw kind of this circular nature of things in Madeira. Have there been other locations that you've been that there's been a decent amount of being able to use Bitcoin for day to day?
I mean, the conferences.
Yeah,
that's one thing. And even that, like if you go back a couple of years, there weren't any adoption. 2019, nobody accepted Bitcoin at the conference. Well, I did, but none of the food trucks or whatever. So, but we've seen a real change there, and I think the BTC Pay Server team are doing a fantastic job. Like, and it's so easy to use, and it's so. It's absolutely great.
I love that the badges for Nostriga are like the BTC Pay tap, lightning cards. Like that's what a fantastic idea, and you can load it up and you can use it at to buy food and everything. You're right. Like the early conferences, it's like, yeah, you got in the door and where can I use Bitcoin? Well, not really. Not at a Bitcoin conference.
And but these things simply weren't built yet, like, or they weren't built for. It wasn't proper. It's all these gated things, you know. But now I feel it's like the first books sale we made yesterday during Noob Day was a guy paying with his ring, that wonderful ring, NFC chip ring. Yeah. So this is just great, and we have literally just a link to a website on our phone, and that's our payment mechanism. We can just click a button and he can use his ring. I mean, it's mind-blowing still to me.
It is great, and I love these kind of ground up movements that are starting to, all these communities that are popping up around the globe right now. In particular, like the kind of local markets and things like that. Like you've got Uvita in Bitcoin Jungle. Obviously, like the El Zonte and all that. We're trying to replicate something like that at home. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I think the point where we really win is when you can meet your basic needs at home with your local community. With just Bitcoin.
Yeah, the message I want to send out there in this particular aspect is that this doesn't start when you decide that you want to spend your Bitcoin. It starts when you decide to accept Bitcoin. So that's key. Like if you want to accelerate hyper-Bitcoinization, start accepting Bitcoin for your goods and services. And you don't comply, just do it. Like
you don't need to ask permission to.
No, that's the whole point. And that's why it's so weird now that the Bitcoiners are sort of pandering to politicians and stuff. Like it's so. Well, you're missing the point. Like, if you need permission to do this, then then it's basically redundant. Like it's
It's I was having a conversation with a few people outside just before this in regards to the politicians, the political part of it. I mean, it's inevitable that as things progress, every person is going to use Bitcoin, but at the same time, it's interesting that the politicians are now pandering to Bitcoiners and vice versa. But before it was only Bitcoiners kind of asking permission of politicians, and now it's politicians trying to get the votes of Bitcoiners. So there's at least there's starting to be a balance struck there. But I agree, the whole point is to not need permission of the politicians. And again, I think it's especially with El Salvador, while it's nice that they got that top-down thumbs up so that people can build things out, the true nature of the beast there was El Zonte, this permissionless town, and that spurred on what happened in the country. It could have just as easily spurred on a top-down disapproval of it as well, but that's hard to stamp out, I think.
It all, at the end of the day, it all boils down to the fact that Bitcoin is just information, and that the information is not indirectly valuable like it is with a dollar or a euro, but directly valuable. The 12 magic words are actually magic. The magic is in the words. And this implies so much. I mean, I remember vividly the first time I was truly the light bulb moment for me was printing out a paper wallet, scanning the address and putting the paper wallet into an envelope and then sending Bitcoin into the envelope. It's like, holy shit, I teleported this thing into the envelope. This means I can teleport it into anything. And it's there. And all I need to know is the information that is in the envelope, and I can interact with it from outside. So it doesn't matter if you have a concrete wall, this, and this. What that means is that it changes everything. And now that we have Nostr and other unstoppable communication protocols, if the information is money and you can't stop communication, then they can't ever do anything about it. It's just so powerful. So I think that it is at its core what Bitcoin is all about. And what people misunderstand about it so much, how different that is to what we're living in now. And also like these, when there are court cases and they try to tie a person to a specific Bitcoin transaction, and these chain analytics companies do their, or I prefer to call them chain anal companies, try to do their proof, quote unquote, proof of who owns what. But truth is, you can't prove a negative. Since it's just information, you can never prove that a person does not have the information. So everyone on Earth could have access to all the Bitcoins. We simply don't know who has access to what, because at the end of the day, it's information. And I'm looking forward a lot to, you know, huge corporations and nation states getting to learn the lesson, not your keys, not your coins, because, and some guy just leaving, and all of a sudden those coins are not there anymore, and someone bought an island somewhere and there's nothing you can do about it. I just love that, because it gives power back to the individual and power back to communication rather than violence. That's what it is. We, as humans, we have two ways to solve our conflicts over scarce resources, and that is one is to talk to one another, which is money, and the other is to force the other person to do something. And Bitcoin simply reduces the profitability of violence by existing in your head. Like the sats, every aspect of the Bitcoin protocol and every app and everything that is on the computers is copyable. What's not copyable is the secret you keep in your head about the 12 words, where your hardware wallet is, what the passphrase is. At the end of the day, the Bitcoins they reside within you, and this is the thing that just keeps blowing my mind over and over again, and what makes me so insanely bullish.
That's awesome. So I guess to round this out, what I typically like to do on the show is get a recommendation from a guest, and recommendations can really take any form. It could be like a piece of personal advice, a life lesson. It might be
buy our new book.
Yeah, there we go. That's yes, or an app, or a device, or something that currently you think it would be useful to anybody that might watch this. So I don't know if anything like pops out to you that you think people should check out, or so like what's the new book, by the way?
It's called The Inverse of Clown World, and I co-wrote it with Luke DeWolf, my podcast co-host, and it's inspired by the conversations we had over the last 2 years. We've made like 120 podcast episodes, and I started writing in December. If there's a starting point to writing, I'm unsure about that. But we've been working on it every day up until now, and released it. Like yesterday was the Infinity Day party, but also the Inverse of Clown World release party. And there's a lot of tips and actual practical tips in the book. What I would advise people to do is study why the Satoshi is different from everything else, and why the first insight you get from that the only thing a Satoshi is like the discovery of something that couldn't be copied on the internet, which means it's not data. It's this mindfuck thing with living in your head and everything. But so that means that all the shitcoins are useless. That's the first insight. But it also means that there's no such thing as a rare Satoshi, for instance, because the criteria for calling it rare are totally arbitrary. But the Bitcoin system itself, it only references itself.
The criteria are external to Bitcoin.
So they make no sense. So study why it's special, and why you shouldn't dabble with other shit, because that's the easiest way to get something out of this. And when you realize that the Bitcoins live in our heads, it means that other Bitcoiners become insanely valuable to you. And I know that if I help you succeed with whatever you're up to, and vice versa, we both win, because that's how we make Bitcoin win, right? So Bitcoiners are incentivized to just be fucking awesome to one another. I'm swearing here a lot, but I'm excited. And so, and that's yeah, I'm trying to live that now. I'm trying to lean into it and start as many collaborations as possible with other real Bitcoiners, quote unquote, and just lean into this whole we can all, you know, live happily ever after now. Like we are incentivized to be nice to one another.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, this was a nice conversation, and
Truly was.
Again, I appreciate you taking the time.
Right back at you.
And yeah, check out the book and well, all of the books, and yeah, start studying why Sats are different from everything else.
Yes.
Thanks, man. Speed Wallet is a Bitcoin Lightning wallet built with simplicity in mind. Send and receive with ease, claim your own Lightning address, shop your favorite gift cards, and even earn rewards when you spend. Head over to speed.app to download the app on your mobile or desktop today, and be sure to use code BTC SESSIONS 10 to get 5,000 sats for free and the chance to win even more. DEBIFI.com allows you to borrow against your Bitcoin in a non-custodial way. Collateral is held in a 3 of 4 distributed multisig with trusted parties. It provides institutional liquidity providers, loan periods of up to 5 years with flexible conditions and the best rates. And best of all, no rehypothecation of your funds. If you want to check them out today, head over to debify.com or hit the link in the show notes down below. Keeper is a mobile Bitcoin application for managing and securing your funds for the long term. You can set up hot wallets for day-to-day spending or create digital vaults for deep cold storage. They also offer assisted multisig options as well as inheritance planning. And on top of that, Keeper boasts a long list of support for Bitcoin hardware, longer than I've seen for any other mobile application. You can check them out today by searching Bitcoin Keeper in your app store or heading to bitcoinkeeper.app. Yo, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Cheers.
Good to see you, bud.
Yeah,
Cheers.
good to see you. We got to hang out last night and have some good meat. So that
Lots
was
of
delicious.
good meat.
And
Nice beef steak is always always a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we last saw each other down in
El Salvador.
Was it El Salvador the last time I saw you?
I think so.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you again, man.
You too.
Yeah. It's always cool again, just you get to hang out with awesome people, but in different corners of the globe at all times. You're a bit of a nomad right now. You're gallivanting around the globe, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah. Nomading, kind of. Yeah, it's like we're that traveling circus almost.
Yeah.
We're like,
We for sure
you
are.
meet up. We get into a new city, completely new Riga and everything, and then all of a sudden, like 100 of my close friends just show up into town.
Have you been here before?
No, this is my first time in Riga, first time for Baltic Honey Badger, and actually first Nostr conference. that I've been to as well.
Actually, this is my first actual Nostr conference as well. Yeah. So it's been great. What have you been thinking about the talks and everything? Pretty good.
Yeah. For me, it's very educational.
Yeah.
I'm still very much a noob with Nostr, so I wanted to come and just learn as much as possible.
Yeah.
I think that it's such an important aspect of things. It's such an important movement that I want to contribute to. I want to understand, especially around social connection and freedom of communication and developing robust ways to like stay connected online.
Yeah.
Like if Bitcoin is connecting us on the monetary level, but if we're not able to connect socially as well and have that build those social bonds and the relationships, and the value flow is going to be more encumbered. So it's just like adding on top of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. This is, I feel like we're already leading towards a little bit of why you're bullish here. Like
absolutely.
So you've been doing a lot of interesting stuff, and you're definitely one of those people that I've found has, and I don't know if it was directly influenced by Bitcoin or if this was just kind of your personality in general, but like you've you've taken the idea of like self-improvement and kind of ran with that and also helped other people with that. And I mean, I guess I'll just start by saying, like, why are you bullish in and around that, and how the hell has Bitcoin complemented that for you?
Yeah, well, I'd say, like, I always like what John Vallis says is when he's like, people ask him what he's bullish about, he's like, I'm bullish on Bitcoiners, right? That's kind of his famous line. And, you know, I really connected with that message early on in 2020 when I was kind of grappling with Bitcoin and trying to understand it best as possible. Then also seeing what is possible to build around Bitcoin, what kind of society is going to look like as a result of Bitcoin, and what communities could look like as a result of it, and also like how good our lives can become, right?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, we're always trying to build our lives to be the best as possible. We want to have the highest quality in all respects, right? And that's why we are kind of, as Bitcoiners, we're gathering around Bitcoin because we think it's the highest quality money, and we're putting a bet on it, and we're saying, like, this is the best thing. Eventually the rest of the world is going to find out, and we're going to benefit from, like, being early and understanding it earlier on. So I think it's natural to then kind of think, well, what's the next step, and what's the next thing that is, you know, connected to Bitcoin, and then you know, what are the knock-on effects. And so I think, like, that's why this is interesting. Nostr is one of those things, right? It's that distributed communication protocol that we're kind of looking for to decentralize the web even further and whatnot. So that's why we're here. We're kind of like interested in seeing that advance. But also, to me, I've, you know, found pretty early on in my understanding of Bitcoin that it wasn't just like solving our money issues. It was also connecting a group of people who were, like, interested in freedom, interested in personal sovereignty and personal responsibility. And I found that, especially once I met up with these people in person, it was creating this whole other level of social connection and depth of friendship and relationship that was not as, like, readily available in other realms, like in normie world, right? So
we kind of get to leapfrog the small talk when you meet another Bitcoiner. Like, there's already a thread of commonality amongst you, so you can kind of get to the deeper conversations earlier than you would with others. Which is very interesting. Like, I feel more quickly connected with my Bitcoiner friends than I would connect with somebody that's maybe not in this realm. It's just, it's almost a given that you sit down with another Bitcoiner, and there's going to be a number of things that you, even if it's not perfectly, you're going to align on a lot of things and a lot of common goals. I think, anyways, in my experience. Yeah,
I've experienced that too, and especially going in and out of the Bitcoiner communities. A lot of times I'll go to just, like, I've been nomading for this year, and I'll have periods of time where I'm just, like, not hanging out with Bitcoiners, and, you know, sometimes I get tired of Bitcoiners.
It can happen.
Like, because I don't want to have the same conversation over and over again, but, like, going into some of the normie communities, it's a lot of times just lacking that depth. It's like, well, okay, how much of this small talk and, like, I don't know if it's just not as substantial, meaningful conversations and relationships flourish. I guess a lot of times, because at the end of the day, it's like, well, where is this relationship going if we don't agree on, like, the fundamental problems in the world and
Yeah.
I guess, and especially as I get older, I'm like more interested in building long-term relationships and long-term friendships and an actual community that is where we can like help each other with raising our kids and also have friends like homeschooling and thinking about how to properly do all of those things. So it's like
Bitcoin kind of rewires the way you think about a lot of things, I find. Right. It's interesting and maybe that's where the saying like Bitcoin fixes this comes from. It's not that it directly fixes a lot of things, but it causes people to question a lot of things and go about their lives differently. Like it was, I mean, for me, it was a gradual thing that set in, but like the early days in Bitcoin, as I realized that a lot of my friends and even just like the media and stuff like that clearly didn't understand it and were misinformed, but like stubbornly misinformed.
Right.
It made me question a lot of other media that I used to consume and what a lot of other people thought about particular things. And so it makes you kind of step back and maybe look in the mirror a little bit more about how you were living your life before and if you can do better. I think maybe, I don't know, like does that ring true to you at all, or like?
Yeah, I think so. I've found that to be the case in a few different ways. Like one of them is like, well, I talked about this with Robert Breedlove on What Is Money Show a little bit, where we were saying since Bitcoin is something that you're taking personal responsibility over and you have to control, you're taking it into your own hands and your own control, and if you fuck it up, then you're the one to blame and no one else is, right? It's kind of this personal responsibility movement, and more than many others, just having like guided so many people through wallets and like Bitcoin custody issues, that's a huge part of just the Bitcoin ethos. So just that fact in and of itself turns your attention inward to be like, okay, well, I have to take responsibility over this aspect of my life, and then maybe there are a lot of other areas in my life where I'm not taking responsibility, and I could actually improve those aspects as well. And so that's why you see a lot of us really digging into what the mainstream like propaganda has been around health and wellness, and
that's a big one. I've started going down that rabbit hole of like, we've been told like this is how you're supposed to be eating to be healthy, but like the propaganda is getting out of control. Like, did you see the study? I think it came out last year, where they ranked a bunch of foods in order of like whether or not you should consume them or whether it should be like minimized, and Lucky Charms was ranked far better than ground beef and eggs. Like sugary breakfast,
because it has the whole grains.
But like it's
it's so backwards.
It blows my mind a little bit because
it's colorful. You want your food to be colorful.
Right? Exactly. But like it's the same feeling that I had when I realized that they were just that media coverage of Bitcoin was bullshit. But then seeing something like that in something that's so obviously wrong, put out by the government, and for there not to be literal like comedy sketches on what a clown piece of guidance that is, and it's almost like nobody flinched. They're like, yeah, absolutely, that's how it works, and that was science, and
science said it,
and this is how we should eat, and you have no control, like the idea that you have no control over being overweight and you there's nothing you can change about your diet. It's a how did they frame it? It's a
like a disease,
cognitive, like it's a brain disease.
Oh, okay.
And you're just saddled with obesity. There's nothing you can do.
Right.
That's insane to me.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's why I see it from a larger perspective. Like, it's so the Bitcoin, the financial side of things, the health and wellness side of things, you can see all these like they're areas of attack or angles of attack, I guess, against the individual. Yeah. In my opinion. And so the way that we are going to respond to that is going to be, well, you need to be more individuate yourself even more and understand this stuff on a deeper level. And that's why I see, you know, these are all physical things we're talking about and institutional things, but it's also a spiritual battle. Like, this is something where you have forces in the world, evil in the world, in my opinion, that is trying to tell people that we know what's best. You can trust us. We're gonna take care of you. Don't worry about anything. We're gonna set up like central bank digital currency. We're gonna get you get you food stamps. We're gonna get you money. And that was kind of the attitude that I saw a lot in the COVID thing, which was really the pandemic, you know, where it was just this like attitude, like, we got this, everything's gonna be okay, just stay in your home for 3 weeks and to flatten the curve and trust the experts, do what you're told,
sit down and shut up.
Sit down and shut up. But a lot of us saw through that, obviously, and we're trying to like call it out, and but there's only so much of that we can do, and we don't have that much of an influence. But from an individual standpoint, you have to maintain your individual agency in those situations and look at things critically. Be like, all right, well, what the fuck? How is this going to benefit me? And do these institutions, do these people have my best interests at heart? And like, just asking those fundamental questions is going to, you know, actually improve your life. Believe it or not.
Do you think that, you know, obviously through that period, there's a ton of censorship online. And Nostr didn't exist yet at the beginning, right? We're going on 2 years of Nostr, and really like the first year of Nostr, it was, you know, slow start. I wonder if Nostr existing during that time would have been the perfect time for it to come about. Like, I feel like that it would have been. I mean, I guess it wasn't meant to be. It didn't happen yet, but it would have been interesting having Nostr exist during all of that.
Yeah, totally. I think, you know, that's one of the things that Paul and I, you know, we were talking about in the sauna yesterday, is like, you know, we can do all we can to market, to like produce content on Nostr and promote these applications and promote it, educate people and everything. But it's, you know, it's kind of like Bitcoin. If they don't need it, if people don't need it, then the adoption's gonna be slow and stagnant. And so there's that element of adoption, in my opinion. Like, I think that's why it's cool that Nostr's here now, because we know that the pandemic, COVID, that's not like that's not the only time they're going to try to do this shit. We know that something else is going to come, and it's just this ratcheting effort that as you've seen as well in Canada, like the censorship issues, the financial restrictions and everything, it just keeps getting worse. So I think there probably will be another event of some kind where that'll be kind of like spurring a lot of growth and people seeing the need for something like Nostr.
Yeah. It's a part of me wonders also if the fact that Elon bought Twitter and gave a semblance of free speech back to it may have almost like slowed down Nostr adoption, because again people feel like they got some free speech back, and so they feel like they don't need something else yet. But we all know it's just a matter of time before either through the people running X now, or just regulatory overreach that eventually happens again.
Yeah, like we're saying, a very real possibility is that Europe just bans X, right?
Yeah.
Like,
we just saw Venezuela and Russia, and there's a couple other places like that have already banned it. But like, it's insane to me that a country will say, "Oh, those people are saying things we don't like. Let's ban an entire platform from being in our country." But that's how it is.
Yeah. Well, if you are, a lot of this kind of like dials down to the sovereign individual thesis, in my opinion, as well. You can see it playing out in real life. Like, you have these legacy nation states that are like overburdened by their massive debts, their bureaucratic like behemoths, and they need to harvest their taxes. They need to harvest the human energy that is within their jurisdiction. Right? They're basically like human energy farms. Is what our nation states have become. And so the way that they are hedging the animals in is by like controlling the content they consume and what they're able to, what they're able to see, what they're able to learn about, and the news and everything. And so we're trying to break free from that. We're trying to help and just for ourselves kind of establish a little more control of our lives.
Well, you've kind of been living this sovereign individual thesis a little bit yourself. Like you've been traveling around and living places outside the U.S., kind of testing the waters. What's that experience been like? Living different places on the globe. Like what have been the positives? Have there been some negatives along the way?
I've kind of taken this year to explore the world, basically, and explore what I call, or what many people call, the new frontier of digital sovereignty, right? Because we have, it's like in the old frontier days, there was the West, the Great West, where people were trying to incentivize people to go out and settle and set up homesteads, stake claims. To open lands where they could kind of establish their own new life. So now we have this kind of new frontier where with digital money and with online businesses and remote work and things like this, you can be fully remote and not be tied to one particular jurisdiction. And there's lots of different tools, and so this is another, it's a learning process for me. I'm still learning this stuff. But it's been great to, for one part of the year be able to be in Costa Rica surfing and connecting with the Bitcoin community there as well, and seeing what kind of like cool shit is happening in the Bitcoin adoption and Bitcoin jungle. And then go down to Buenos Aires as well and see Argentina like firsthand, what kind of changes are occurring there, and what the hope of like maybe a new freedom country and Citadel location could be there. El Salvador has been great. I'm a surfer, so I'm attracted to more of like the coastal towns, coast places that have amazing waves. And yeah, Portugal was amazing as well. But something, I guess, in my experience so far doing it, kind of one thing that has come to mind, and that I've talked to Paul as well about, and a lot of other friends, is that, you know, we can establish a lot of freedom for ourselves.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, if you're a solo, you know, entrepreneur, if you're a solo digital nomad, it can be a lonely place.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're also, even if you're, you know, very wealthy, if you have all of the freedom and all the wealth in the world, ultimately, like, it's not that meaningful, it's not that fun if you don't have anyone else to enjoy it.
Yes.
So for me personally, I'm very much interested in community development and what it looks like to facilitate like a global community of like-minded people, and we're kind of meeting our own stride, I guess, with you know, my small group of friends, and you know, we're kind of looking at ways in which we can continue to live the free digital nomad lifestyle, but do it together as well, and meet in different parts of the globe, different parts of the time, or different parts of the year. Yeah. And like the conferences are cool, are one aspect of that. Yeah. Like we said, we're just all of us convene in Riga, you know. Yeah. But with these larger groups, there's only so much depth that you can come out of it, and it does so it like spreads the breadth of your social network. Yeah. But I'm also very interested in curating and cultivating more depth of community and depth of relationships in my own life and in our friendships and everything like that. So that's something that's going forward for the next year. I'm really excited about, like, exploring. And you know, while we do that, I think there's also this aspect of, like, the internal and the external. I'm kind of categorizing it like this. It's like our personal experience of sovereignty and of, like, living life is going to improve over time, and that's like one of the benefits. That's why it's like number go up technology, right? We get into Bitcoin because you know, we want to get more wealthy, we want to have more influence in that kind of thing, and control. But there's also we also want to inspire other people to do the same, because the more people are using Bitcoin, the better our network becomes, and the more people who embrace the ideas of personal agency and freedom, in my opinion, the better our world becomes, right? So there is, for me and for a lot of our friends, this aspect where we want to inspire adoption. We want to encourage Bitcoin adoption, Nostr adoption. So a lot of people are working on, like, educational resources for that, which are great. Like, we have tons of podcasts, we have books, and we have conferences and stuff, but the way that people change and the way that people change their behavior, and the way we learn, it's a lot more having to do with, like, what our friends are doing and what's cool, right? And what's, like, what people are inspired by. We're emotional creatures and we're sponges, so and we're social beings as well, right? So it's kind of a long-winded way of saying, like, I think as we're, like, living better lives, it's like also encouraging Bitcoin adoption. Yes, well, people see, like, the proof of it. The proof is in the pudding, right? Like, it's like, oh, why did this person suddenly get financially better off, and then turned around their health, and then became more informed on a variety of different topics, and has a healthy relationship with the people around them? Like, how did all of this
compound, and we see it. I see it happening with a lot of Bitcoiners. You know, more
Right.
Bitcoiners are starting families.
Right.
You know, like there's a lot of stuff that comes along with once you figure out the. You know, once you no longer have to worry about being hand to mouth,
Right.
then you can start to improve in other areas as well. And so, like,
Right.
you know, fixing the money gives a conduit through which many people can fix other things too, because now they have the time to actually do it.
Yeah.
But they also
Yeah.
have the questioning minds that encourages them to explore new ideas and new things.
Right.
I want to round out with a couple final, I guess, more specific questions, and I guess I'll phrase it in the way of like recommendations for people that maybe listen to this. But
Okay.
in your experiences in the past couple of years, in terms of some of the tools that you found helpful, both in maybe in your Bitcoin and Nostr journey, but also from the like bettering oneself, like resources around that. What are some things that you would point people towards that you've found useful over the years?
Oh man.
And this could be any form,
Yeah.
like maybe like wallets or Nostr clients, but also like books that have kind of opened your eyes to things.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of books,
Yeah.
a lot of great mentors, people that I've come across, I guess, that have helped me to form my, I guess, path of personal development. And you know, it's going to look differently for everyone.
Yeah.
We all have kind of different pattern of weaknesses and strengths and whatnot that we need to kind of overcome. But for Nostr clients, like I'm on Primal. I think I'm a huge fan of Primal. I think they're kind of on the cutting edge of like what's bridging like social media and social connection in this really cool way, and like being able to zap, being able to connect with people in that way is super cool. So definitely gonna show Primal, but
And it's got a lightning wallet built right in.
it's got
so
a lightning wallet built in.
You get that 2-for-1.
Yeah. We were in the jungle, like doing meeting vendors and like posting about like, hey, we want to buy this like cacao heart, and seeing just to like test the Lightning network to see like who's gonna fill this invoice, and then like we just post this picture, and then all of a sudden, you know, the vendor gets paid in Lightning for the thing we're buying there.
That's awesome.
You know, it's super fun to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think so. A few books come to mind, like for me, for my kind of spiritual development, I was very impacted by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
Okay.
I think that's like a must read for anyone kind of coming into, wanting to kind of enter into this like kind of more of a spiritual growth. It's more of a spiritual growth book, but it's very simplified. It's not like getting super woo-woo. It's very simple, like simply focusing on the present moment is what it's about. And it's very well written. He's an amazing guy. He sat on a park bench for like 5 years after like becoming suicidal, and then completely transformed his life. It's a really powerful book. And kind of a quick read is that I return to often. I have a few sets of books that I just basically read once a year, maybe even every couple months. But this is an essay called Self-Reliance by Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Okay.
So he was writing in the 1800s, and he wrote Self-Reliance, which is really, you read it now, and it's like describing Bitcoiners, describing this personal responsibility movement of what personal sovereignty in Bitcoin is all about, in my opinion. So I highly recommend, like, all Bitcoiners read Self-Reliance, listen to it. It's in the public domain. You can get the audiobook on YouTube free. Reality Transurfing is a little more on the esoteric realm, but that's a really cool book that I found to be interesting. I could go on and on, but I think the main thing that I continue to come back to is surrounding yourself with people that you want to be like, especially for men. Like, surround yourself with other guys, other dudes that you want to become more like. Because we're, as much as we want to think of ourselves as these autonomous beings that are like, having an impact on the world or whatever, the reality is we're being shaped all the time, and we're being influenced. So, for example, like, hanging out with you is now, it's inspiring me to do more content, right? And to actually, to clarify some of these ideas and this kind of thing. So, and same with hanging out with Paul and Max DeMarco in Costa Rica. And so having those, whether it's a formalized mastermind group, which is some of the thing, some of what I incorporate into our adventures and our events that I'm posting at citadeltheory.com. And as well as like the online community side of things, it's like I'm wanting to collect as many Bitcoiners who want to level up their lives as possible, right? Because we get the Bitcoin thing, now we like, what's next? Let's improve our lives in all other aspects. And so not everyone's into that. Not everyone wants to like be the best version of themselves. But I do, and I want, I'm still growing, and a lot of other people do as well. So that's something that I'd recommend, is like just getting together with other like-minded guys who are also trying to improve themselves. Because I know I have friends who, we come together, and when we're together, it's like iron sharpens iron, and we're like going on adventures, we're talking about new ideas, and they're getting inspired. We're creating things. We're on our purpose, on our mission. But a lot of times, once we go back home into if it's a toxic relationship environment where the TV's on all the time, or you've got negative friends around you who are like telling you, who are like bagging on you for like wanting to grow, it's going to, or like they're drinking all the time, or just have like these not these habits or these influences that aren't conducive to your growth, then obviously that's going to have an impact on you, right? So
you're the sum of the people that you spend the most time around, right?
The 5 people that you are close with, that's who you become. So that's join a mastermind, connect with me, and our group. Where do people find that again? So citadeltheory.com is where it's just kind of the aggregating website right now. You can fill out an application to join the community, to connect with me, and just we'll connect on a call. We can do a vibe check, and from there we have in-person events. We have adventures going on in different parts of the world, Argentina, France, like El Salvador, but also forming an online community where we can continue that that connection and that mastermind like collaboration type of environment. So that's what I think to be that's what's been the most transformational for me, is going and connecting with other people who are on that path.
The human connection is integral to bettering oneself, and I think it's good. Like, again, I guess to bring it all back to where we're at and what we're doing, like it's the in-person meet space where shit gets done, and I think it's important, and it's really cool to kind of see everything go from this digital money created by an anonymous individual, creating communities in meet space that are actually getting together and bettering themselves because of it in the real world. I guess it's the impacts can't be understated. So
I agree, man. And that's what don't want to get hyperbolic or grandiose about it, but at human civilization, that's just what we do. We formed in hunter-gatherer tribes, and then because of like certain technology, we started to we start to organize into larger groups, but that has an impact on how we develop and how we are on our well-being, right? So I think like when we think about how to improve our lives, how to improve our societies, like community development is going to be a huge part of that. Because we're social beings, we're social creatures. We live life together. We eat good food together. We have like go on adventures together. Like that's what life is about. It's raising families together and everything like that. And that's like this element of church that it was like for a lot of large portion of history, that function was church. People got together and
you built your community.
They built their community and shared their difficulties. They came together to like help each other in certain aspects. But now, like most people we live in basically this atheistic, non-religious society, and so I think that's a huge void in people's lives and in society as well. So
I do hope, and I think we're maybe seeing the seedlings of it here, where we see a return to that, or a return to having communities that can rely on each other and build each other up. And I think, again, I guess the lesson here is if you're a Bitcoiner, meet other Bitcoiners. If you're an ostrich, meet other ostriches, build those relationships, and surround yourself with people that you consider to be at a place that you would like to achieve, and it'll start to rub off on you. And so go check out the mastermind stuff. I'll put your handle and your NPub down below and everything. And thanks for the chat, man.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please do like, sub, share, all those things. They help a ton getting this content in front of more eyeballs. If you want to help the show in another way, you can hit up the previously mentioned sponsors in the show notes down below. Of course, follow both of these gentlemen. I have their links in the show notes there too. And if you have been perusing the channel, you've been checking out the tutorials, but you find you need a little bit of extra hand holding, please do reach out to my team over at bitcoinmentor.io. We've got incredible Bitcoin educators that can help you through with anything you need, whether it be key management, hardware, multisig, running a node, home mining, and beyond. They have got you covered. So again, bitcoinmentor.io. With that, I'm out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening wherever you may be. I'll see you guys next time for your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.